as part of what's important to us here at MedCV is to obviously help people with our partners, like we're going to be talking with today, to teach our members, physicians and APPs, the things that you may not have learned in medical school about the business of healthcare. And today we're going to focus on leadership and our collaboration with the Physician Leadership Career Network and Curt Scott and the University of Texas at Dallas, and the person who runs that program for the university, Don Taylor. So welcome and thanks for having this C-suite insider conversation. People that see this program are going to be the ones that are going to be able to have the opportunity to almost sit next to us at the restaurant table when you and the three of us are talking about why we do what we do and maybe some problems that we've had and how we solved them in the past and those kinds of things that they wouldn't get that insider information to if they didn't know us personally or didn't by luck sit next to us at that table at the restaurant and overhear some of the wisdom that will be coming out of your brains and sharing in this conversation today. So let me introduce first Curt Scott. Curt and I have been friends and colleagues for, I hate to admit it, over 30 years. And we do a lot of collaboration between what he's doing over there in helping physicians move and transition into those leadership positions from maybe that next chapter in their life. And so we do a lot of collaboration and working back and forth to figure out how we can help people. And Don, we've known each other for a short while, but we have so many things in common with past projects that we worked on helping VA and the Department of Defense that the first time I met Don, it was like meeting a brother from years ago or catching up as if we've been friends for 30 years too.
Right.
So Curt, tell me real quick, just tell us about the Physician Leadership Network.
Physician Leadership Career Network is a network that I put together about 6 years ago to try to address the issue of, there's this gap that we've had where physicians that want to be in leadership roles or that are in leadership roles don't have and haven't had a great place to connect with healthcare organizations that are looking to fill mission critical leadership roles. And it's evolved over the initial launch of our platform to be not only a job board and a place where you can connect to organizations that are recruiting their leaders, but it's also now a resource center to help physicians that are either in or wanting to be aspiring leaders get the resources they need to advance their careers. So coaching, the master's program that Don leads for UT Dallas, the Alliance for Physician Leadership, is part of our resource center. Leadership training, which we'll talk about later with our new certificate program with UT Dallas, the path to physician leadership from healer to leader.
And Don, tell us a little bit about your role with and how you got involved with University of Texas and doing what you do now.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and it's been great to share how I have met both of you and how all of a sudden instant energy and connection happened. It's sort of like it's sort of strange that we all exist in different universes and then they collide. And you go, wow, somebody else thinks like I do, or somebody else considers things that I think about every day, and even worry about a bit. I'm been in healthcare decades, so let me just say that. Retired military, which established some of my perspectives about not only healthcare, but population health and engagement and service, and certainly purpose that we'll talk about maybe a little later, because it really galvanized my point of view, particularly later in my career when I served as a trauma hospital commander in Iraq. As a non-physician, it was an incredible challenge, not only to me because I couldn't fail, the docs were judging me, but I also knew that I saw what healthcare could be in its purest form. When we focus on saving lives and health, everything else becomes very clear about how you get there. We get back here, the noise happens again. Confusion, noise, peripherals, profits, power, all those other things begin to confuse our real purpose. And I believe we've lost sight of that. So as I've gone through my career paths, I tripped upon teaching a few years ago. And that's where I found my love. Because number one, I didn't think I had anything to say. And next thing I knew, somebody was listening. And then you go, wait, if they're listening, well, who listens best? And it happened to be physicians, because they're looking for a voice. And I think that what we do here at the program, and I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, frankly, because Dr. John McCracken started this program 25 years ago and asked me to step in and replace him as the director. And we have just fit this unique niche for the needs of executive physicians, and not only growing their leadership skills, but establishing business skills they need to sit in the C-suite, function in the C-suite, and frankly, go beyond that. So my discovery is that if you're going to change healthcare, you got to start with doctors. It's 6 months. We had a 5-month core program, 2 hours, one night a month, to kind of accommodate their schedules, micro-learning segments with 30-minute topics. And then we've just added a bonus session. We called it odds and ends, just to help them really basic things you need, like how do you find an attorney? How do you find a financial advisor that you can trust? What questions do you ask them before you retain them? How do you find a coach? When do you need a coach? Those are things we're going to add in the bonus section just to help them get started the right way. Remember, this isn't a destination. This is just how we start.
So, but what you're offering is a certificate program over the course of 6 months to give you what I call tools, resources, ideas, and methodologies that you can literally sink your teeth into, your canines into, and take away and use the very next day, right?
Correct.
Also, do you also offer a full-blown MBA or a master's program as well? But that's not what this is.
No,
right?
this is actually predates that. So we thought about this program because we're so complementary in our histories about physician development. But before I go, let me go the MBA program. Even a part of this, we talk about when should you get your MBA. I'm not a believer that your master's in business administration should be offered to you during your med school days. It's way too early. You just don't know enough to know what you should know. You just don't. You should focus on your clinical skills early. Like our program is more for senior or executive physicians. Average age is 47. And I have 90 in the program today, a waiting list into mid next year, never advertised. It's a great program. The point is, they have enough scars and stories to make the learning real.
Right.
We're preceding that a bit. So we don't want people to rush out and to get a degree because, frankly, a degree too soon could damage you. You would have expectations in leadership that you just don't have. Leadership doesn't come from the degree. Leadership comes from experience, from taking risk, from learning things, from failing. That's where leadership's built. And we just want to help them start that path safely.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole point of the program, Niels, is to help them understand the skill sets that they need to acquire over a period of time so they're prepared to go into leadership when the time is right. So it's, over the years, as I've worked with physician leaders and counseled and tried to help them advance their careers, the questions that I often get are from younger or early career physicians that are trying to break into leadership and they're having trouble doing it. They don't know how. How do I create the path with my goals to get to my end goal? Or I've been trying to break into leadership and nobody will take me seriously, or nobody looks at me as a leader. How do I change that? Do I have to leave? I mean, so many of them assume that they're going to have to leave their organization if they want to advance their career, and that's just not the case. It may be the case, but it also could be they haven't prepared themselves in the eyes of their senior leaders to be, a formidable force, to be thought of as a future leader. How do you interact with these folks? Are you engaged? Are you in committees? Do you chair a committee? Have you done that yet? There's so many things that you can do, I call it your brand, your personal brand. And, what do people see you as now versus what do you want them to see you as, or what do they need to see you as in order for them to think of you as a leader? So those are things that I get lots of questions about. And over the years, it's probably the number one topic people ask me about is, how do I do this? I don't, have a background in this. I don't know how to get started. And that's what the path for physician leadership is all about, is helping them create that path.
The great thing is that you have 25 years of deep bench knowledge with the MBA program, and Curt's been dealing with physicians and working with physicians for his whole pretty much adult career, right? I mean, so we've and same with me, between the three of us, we've really had an opportunity to been in several scenarios where we've had to learn and share ideas and innovate solutions as it relates to what leaders need to be doing in the healthcare space, whether it's in the private, for your group or your practice, or in a hospital or health system setting, right? So you are able to grab all this, give enough information with meat on the bones over the course of 6 months. Is there homework too that people have to do between classes in your course?
They'll have worksheets for every one of the 2-hour sessions, and there'll be some reflections and some comments we'll expect them to do in between the sessions. The idea is to have a month to sort of let that sink in, some external articles to review. We'll send them some of those things for them to read. The point is not to go too deep too fast, because we want them to begin slowly. Here's another aspect of this that frankly has alarmed me as I've gotten deeper into this. As you said, I have this rich opportunity not only to have a 600 alumni from my program right now across the country over those 25 years. I've got almost 100 sitting there today that I could interview in a moment to tell me what their experience is. And by the way, what they learned on their leadership journey. And by the way, what they look for in junior physicians today, trying to enter leadership. I mean, I hear that almost daily from those physicians. Here's the alarming point, is that health systems today, I believe, need to do more in developing physicians. They're just expecting docs to exist clinically for 10 to 15 years and then magically turn into a leader. An MD or a DO does not prepare you to lead. Just doesn't. I can't tell you how many physicians I've coached or mentored, and they go, well, I'm ready. And I go, you're ready for what? Well, I'm ready to lead. Are you? Let's go through a little question session here. And quickly they realize their expertise is very powerful but narrow, because they really aren't emotionally developed enough to understand the breadth and responsibility of what real leadership's about. It's not the title of the boss. if you look around and nobody's following you, you're not a leader. I don't care what they call you. And so we need to help organizations. For goodness sake, how about you start with onboarding? How many organizations today have a formal onboarding process for their new physicians? I would challenge this. I would probably say few. And what do you do next for them? Have you identified those that have potential to lead? Well, that's what we want to help, is we want to help those become noticed as potential leaders. But you have to do a few things to do that. You have to speak knowledgeably about healthcare. Are you reading outside your system? Are you reading nationally the trends? Can you speak conversantly on what's happening today? And goodness knows there's plenty to read about today. I mean, there's lots to know in healthcare today if you want to be relevant. And physicians need to understand that. Are you able to talk and navigate conflict? How do you work within your team? Do you ask great questions or do you just talk?
Don,
really engaged?
Don, some of the things that might be, I guess it's a scotoma in the minds of administrators and sometimes physicians as well, that hospital administration and physicians sometimes should have this, or they have this kind of an attitude, us versus them. What I've always strived to do is to try to identify those potential leaders that want to be part of the solution. And sometimes we have to allow ourselves to be educated, because there is some truth to why administration needs something a certain way, or, it's no margin, no mission, right? You can't, even for nonprofit hospitals, if you're losing money, you're not going to be able to keep the hospital open and provide the services the community needs. And on the physician side, they have to understand that and learn some of those idiosyncrasies so that they can share that information out to the medical staff as well as to the rationale behind something. And likewise, teach hospital administration that here's why you have to invest in your medical staff, because the return on investment is going to be this. You have to listen to the physicians as well. You can't be squeezing blood out of turnips all the time. It has to be a give and take and understanding and education, right? So what is this program going to do to help physicians open up to learn more about the positions of administration, to help them get their points across and their mission done as a representative of the medical staff and the patients as a whole?
Say, Curt, you want to start that one?
Well, I think there's quite a few aspects within the program itself that are going to touch these points, Niels. We're kicking off the session right off the bat with a panel discussion with chief medical officers that are going to be able to give the students in this cohort a firsthand look at what it's like to be a chief medical officer and what they have to deal with. And I think that's going to be some great insight. It's probably going to open eyes, because I really don't think people understand what folks like chief medical officers, chief academic officers deal with on a daily basis. So I think that's going to be a huge impact, especially in this first kickoff session, that kind of will set the path for the rest of the program. Don, what do you think?
I absolutely agree. There's two elements to this, and you've described a pretty rigid divide in healthcare in general, particularly in the U.S. And my own history, I had to overcome that, being a non-physician myself. But I worked for, with, and supervised so many physicians over my career, I just became closer to the clinical space than I did to the administrative world. But here's what I had my mindset, and this is what I challenge administrators to do. If it doesn't happen in the exam room or the OR, it's overhead. That's just the way it is. You're there to support clinical care. That's it. Even as the CEO, that's your job. You support healthcare. And once you get that clear in your head, and remember when I mentioned earlier about in Iraq, that was so clear to me because when a mass cal event happened over there, what did I do as the boss? I got them Gatorade and I mopped blood off the floors.
Yeah.
The point is, we have to, as a healthcare system, and it's a messy one in the US, and we're going to talk a little bit about that from about 50,000 feet in this program as well. But you have to get your head wrapped around what health is. Are we creating health care or are we creating health? The physicians need to lead the charge to create health. And we've complicated that through all the noise. They are subject to the noise. They've been conditioned to the noise before they ever arrive in a health system, and then they're asked to lead. So I think we really need to help them shift a mindset a little bit, understand, yes, they are in charge of the health decisions. Never use it, never hold it hostage. You can't have everything you want and go, well, if you don't give me what I want, patients die. You can't play that game in the C-suite either. The point is, how do you come together and speak a common language with the interest of serving patients better? That's really what we're trying to create.
I was, I don't remember if someone taught me this, probably because I've been very fortunate to have several great mentors in my career. But one thing that I talk about often is that if you're a hospital administrator, it's important to understand who your client is. And sometimes, and oftentimes, you have to remember that the patients, yeah, they may be your client, but the doctors are really your clients, your medical staff, and the patients are the doctor's clients. So if you take care of your doctors and understand them and help them, sometimes you have to be stern and say no, but explain why. But oftentimes, if you are seen as an advocate for your medical staff and understand that that's who your client is, because you don't need a hospital if you don't have any doctors, right? I mean, it's pretty clear. Doctors put people in hospitals, right? And have procedures referred over there. So if you don't have any doctors, you don't need a hospital. So you better kind of understand who your client is, and then allow the doctors to allow the patients to be their clients predominantly, and help the doctors generate those clients and support their clients, the patients. Is that
correct? But the doctors, we have to help the physicians understand they can only practice their skills with a good team. They have to work and create a team. Yes, they're expected to lead early, but that is really difficult. Today's workspace is challenging. How many are virtual? How many are generational differences? Look at the changes right now. Look at the technology entering into our space. Look at everything that's complicating the delivery of care. And the doctors can't know all of that. We're not expecting them to. They have to understand their ability to lead a team that heals those that they serve, their clients, is incredibly important, and the lessons need to start early. But that's what we really want to build here, is an appreciation for that at the very beginning. But health systems today, and how many, I don't know, Kurt, you tell me, how many have a problem with retention and recruitment?
All of them.
For goodness sake. I mean, it's a massive problem, and it costs a lot of money to lose a doctor within a system.
It generally costs 7 times as much to replace a physician than it would cost to keep them. So there are those that you just got to get rid of, obviously, just in any industry that just shouldn't be part of your team. But the ones that want to do something, and if you're not fostering and nurturing that relationship to get them to excel in their being part of the solution, not part of the problem, will cost you dearly if you don't do it right. And that's where a program like this comes into place to give the insight, I think, to these up and coming leaders. One thing I want to ask you about, Curt, is you mentioned earlier when you first introduced people to the course, you're going to have a panel of experienced physician leaders to share some of the C-suite insider conversations and experiences, the good, bad, and the ugly about being a leader, right? And what they've been able to do in this course. And that's something that you would only maybe be able to get if you knew one other person before you stepped in to volunteer to become that leader. Now you have a plethora of experiences over many, many years that you're gonna hear it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, right?
Right.
About what they had to overcome, how they did it, and what failed and why it failed, and those kinds of things. But that also leads me to asking if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the faculty that that's part of this. You have physicians that are part of the faculty, right? You have Elsie,
Yes.
right, as an example, and many others that really bring substance to this program, not just pure business, right? Not just pure business and physicians. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm going to actually have Dawn talk about the faculty because so many of those are people that went through the program or people that he got acquainted with through the program.
Sure.
But I will throw out this. One of our advisory board members is Dr. Elsie Coe. She's an interventional radiologist and the chief medical officer for their group. And she's predominantly in limb salvage. Only 2 years out of her residency program, she was thrown into a leadership position, bam. No experience, no prep, no training, and she failed. She was able to remedy that and survive and actually become a tremendous leader. But the point is, it wasn't something that she was expecting. In her residency program, she says in her program, if somebody were to tell her that she was going to be a leader down the road, she would have laughed because that's just not something that she even considered that could be a potential for her. And it just happened to her. It didn't happen with her. It just was thrown at her. So this is, again, one of the great aspects of this program, the path to physician leadership, is it's going to be able to start helping you prepare for a potential scenario like that. So, but as far as the rest of the faculty, Dawn, can you highlight some of the folks?
So just to say, we are fortunate that we have sort of a deep pool of physician leaders, those who have a lot of lessons learned in my alumni association. I also have some just from life, people that we've met, people that we know over our histories who are very relevant and have something to say in regard to this space today. So, the CMO panel, for instance, is going to be comprised of current and former CMOs who have decades of experience and are responsibilities both in for-profit and nonprofit systems. They're much different, significantly different in expectations of leadership, but they also have points of view about how physicians are developed today. That's important too, and what they're looking for. Who are the superstars, and what is a superstar in your mind?
Right.
Well, some of these younger physicians have no clue how to appear to be a potential superstar. We have others coming in to talk about basic stuff like Finance 101. Where do I go find my financial statements for my health system? You don't know where to get those. They don't teach you that. We're going to have people talk about, I'm going to teach part of this. This was Curt, but I'm going to teach this about just the U.S. healthcare system. I teach that at a couple of universities. Okay, it's a mess. I don't pull punches, but you have to understand at least what it is and what it isn't. because your patients
Yeah.
deal with it on the other side.
Let me ask you, I mean, you both know I'm originally from Denmark, and even today is the People Happiness Day, or whatever it is officially. And Finland was won again this year as being the happiest place to be as a population, supposedly. And in Denmark, so it's Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland. We're always the ones that are up there usually at the top. I say we, but I'm an American citizen now, right? And I wouldn't want to live in Denmark. I'm happy here in America because of the opportunities. But the question I have is, you mentioned, Don, that that our health system here in America is a mess. But being from Denmark and understanding exactly how a socialized healthcare system works, it's like a worse version of VA in Denmark.
Yeah.
But we're also dealing with only 5.5 million people as opposed to 335 million people. So would you say that America it might be a mess, but is the best of all the messes?
No, because we have declining health. We have decreasing longevity. We're among the sickest of the developed nations in the world. We have a higher prevalence of chronic disease. We have a future projection of chronic disease that is going to increase that death rate much sooner than it is today. We have behaviors and habits that really don't align with health. It's incentivized to create more healthcare. Remember, the perfect patient is someone who's sick and's managed and is just a money machine. It's a cash machine for the system. That is the U.S. healthcare system is really built on that. We also, though, spend twice the next closest nation per capita on healthcare. We're not getting value for the investment. We're not getting health for the investment. We've got a massive business, and by the way, thus the interest in private equity, which goes, wow, the best place to invest your money is where there's a whole lot of slop and an unconstrained opportunity. That's where healthcare is right now. So is there opportunity to improve it? Yeah, there is.
Okay, well, we have our Mr. Kennedy is in charge of HHS now, right? And he's a big, strong proponent of population health. And I believe in that as well. And as you know, with one of our other initiatives with Veritas Healthcare and MedCV, we've got assembled a team. And one of our team members, Navy captain, retired hospital administrator like you were, but his last several years has been as a leader in population health organizations and data gathering and care plans and keeping people healthy out of the hospital. And if you do go to the hospital, don't go back, be compliant with your rehabilitation instructions and medications and those kinds of things. So the healthcare system versus our culture and our food intake and our food industry is when we separate the healthcare system from industry, the food producing organizations that put sometimes bad things in our food that make us less healthy, and our culture as a whole here in America. Do you separate that out from the delivery itself of the care? I mean, if you come in and you're really sick because you don't take care of yourself and you're eating poorly, et cetera, and you're non-compliant with your doctors and medical instructions, how much of that is the result of the problems with our general health status in America versus the actual delivery of care once you go to a facility?
Well, that's not an easy question to answer first. Second, as I will never get into politics either side of this, because I consider this to be sort of politically neutral to create healthy people. And I believe a nation, I don't care whether it's right or left, should be at least not responsible, but should be focused on creating health opportunities for their entire population. Let me just make that clear. Is the healthcare system responsible for that? Yeah, part of it. Name a health system that doesn't have creation of health as part of their mission statement or their purpose statement. But show me one system that measures it. They don't. They measure healthcare. They don't measure health.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things we did even in my strategy class here with the physicians, we do a SWOT, and sure enough, one of the greatest threats to healthcare is health. When people are healthy, you can't make money on them. So what is our incentive in our current US system? What, are we incentivized really to create healthy people, generational health? Maybe not in our current form. That's where I come from. And physicians, by the way, are taught to expect health. Matter of fact, that's their purpose and calling, is to heal people.
It's the Hippocratic Oath, right?
They never get to heal anybody. Nothing stops. It's always a returning patient. That's the part that's part of burnout issues that I just dealt with in the book I'm working on, is when are you satisfied? When do you feel proud as a physician to say, I achieved something? When the patient is chronically ill and you can't heal them.
You touch on that, and you touch on those aspects in this as well to help understand overall leadership and some of the different angles that people may be approaching you from their perspective when you're trying to help them.
Correct.
It may be that their incentives are not exactly aligned with yours or their rationale. You have to understand why they're coming from somewhere, and either you do help them do a rudder check and get them squared away, or you can't, and you still have to accomplish something that they have to participate in.
The key to this is, as you prepare yourself for leadership, never ever politicize your points of view. Never ever. You must stay neutral in your political points of view. You can't enter faith into this. You can't enter politics into this, because health supersedes all of those.
Right.
In our calling, I do what I do, and generally I do what I do because of health. I believe passionately in creating health opportunities for this nation, just as I served in my last life about security of the nation. I do the same now for health. And my choice, my path, and my passion is to serve physicians who deliver that. That's my job today. Is I work for them. I serve them. And it keeps me fueled every day to go wake up and go do something different. And it's because, and I think Curt could also mirror this, my life experiences have taught me there's only one path to changing our healthcare system. And it's not the US government.
Yeah. So what is that path?
It's physicians. Physicians must have a single voice, a focused voice, and change. That's it.
Curt, do you have any closing thoughts on this deep thinking with Don Taylor and our health conversation? This is wonderful, right? Because this is the kind of conversation you would only have if you knew a Don Taylor in your life, when you'd have a conversation and hear these thoughts in person. But it's an example of what I believe is the kind of conversations that you'll have, throughout this whole program, right?
Right.
Deep thought.
Well, I do want to clarify the program once a month for 6 months. So
gotcha.
That's important, because we're not trying to intrude on people's lives every week. What we're trying to do is give you a kind of a chunk of information and give you some workbooks, some opportunities to do some reflecting on what you've learned in this session before you hit the next session. And there'll be some pre-reading before the next session. We want to give time for all of that. But so I did want to clarify that piece. So I really do, just kind of in closing on this whole program, I feel like this is a great opportunity that has not been offered before. I don't know of any other programs out there that are offering an opportunity for aspiring physician leaders to learn how to start their journey and to get to their end goal, and what happens in between, and how to prepare for that and plan for that and have a game plan in place. I don't know of anything out there that would be like this. So, you know, I think it's a hugely important role that we're taking on here to get physicians started on that path to leadership. And for organizations, I'm just going to say this, that to invest in your physicians, in the staff that you have, and be able to help them advance their careers into leadership is, you know, a great way to improve retention. And it's a great way to identify your future superstars and kind of not eliminate, but reduce the amount of help you're going to need from the outside to fill your openings. You're going to be creating a stable of candidates that are coming up through the ranks in terms of leadership, so they will be available to you to fill the openings that you need. And these leaders are going to be able to advance their careers without having to look outside your organization. So that's huge. So again, to me, that's a big aspect of what we're trying to accomplish here. I think the two aspects are, we're helping physicians advance their careers into leadership and helping them how to do that. And we're helping organizations be able to support the careers of their current physicians into these leadership positions. And, you know, we're looking at years down the pike that they'll be able to retain these physicians and help them and watch them grow as leaders.
Yeah, Don, I was just going to ask you something about what Curt was talking about, you know, growing from within. What information do you have, or recommendations might you have, about the value of institutional knowledge of the organization that you've grown up in, and then growing into a leader? What's the competitive advantage of someone who understands your system and your organization deeply and growing within the organization versus leaving and taking whatever experiences you may have had from another organization and then sharing it with a new organization? Sometimes if the new organization needs a ton of new ideas and help, you can come in with a big impact and have, you know, positive results very quickly with the new institution. And that's clear. If you're just going there to make a marginal difference, then wouldn't you rather, stay with the organization that you know deeply, and know where all the warts are, so to speak, and then start being able to do something as a leader to start removing those warts? You know, the difference between staying with something where you have deep institutional knowledge versus going to a new organization where you don't know the institutional knowledge, but come with the new experiences.
So there's two parts to this. Number one is about the sort of churn of leadership in the physician in the executive level with physicians. And I'm going to separate that with academic institutions, nonprofit, and for-profit. Academic institutions, the churn's necessary because they bring money attached to them. They bring research attached to them. So sometimes you churn deliberately to bring in research, to bring in notoriety, names, publications, access to maybe huge grants or significant research opportunities. And by the way, which creates reputational gain. That's an academic world, and let's keep it there. Then there's the nonprofit world, which really is usually aligned to some sort of attitude of community service. And you want physicians who represent that value, that understand community service, underserved in a community, a county hospital, for instance, that cares for underserved. Those you need to stay because they are rich in purpose, and they don't value other amenities in life as much as they do their ability to serve and continue to serve. You really want to invest in those and keep them with you, because early on, those that are motivated by money, compensation, titles, they'll leave, and that's okay, because you really want to retain and develop those. But the point is, we miss the pyramid, and I'm going to go back to what Cert said. There's not a pyramid of development. And I shared with Cert not too long ago, my first day in the Air Force as a brand new lieutenant, somebody took me under their wing and started teaching me how to lead. My first day. I was in the development process my first day in. My job at the end was to create a pool of people who could replace me, whether they were physicians or not. A large pool of people who had leadership skills that I had mentored along my way and shadowed me as well. The other part of this is that you got to keep them sticky, because a doc early on, man, what do we do to keep them? We throw a title at them and we throw more money, a little more money at them. That isn't working. How many docs have you seen with 8 titles underneath their name? They can't even tell you what those titles mean or what they have to do to keep them. But yet, that's the way they are supposedly tagged for value. But they aren't developing them. Those don't cost them anything. Titles cost zero. You need to invest in, because then if you say, wait a minute, they put a little money in me, and it's not the money part, it's they value me. And that's what early physicians are looking for. They're looking for that feeling of being valued and important to the organization. And it starts very early, and I will tell you, this generation's looking for it quicker than the previous generations.
One of the top reasons that physicians state they're leaving their organization is the lack of being valued and heard.
It is. And so then I go to one other organization, the for-profit world. Had some discussions with a number of those systems. They have massive churn at the top. You know how hard it is to keep the lessons learned from a for-profit system is very important to retain and develop them up that chain. It costs a lot of money. And what you get at the top is they don't understand the culture, because it's so significantly different than nonprofits or academics. Well, you really have to have a deliberate path to grow a for-profit focused physician who can lead. And I think that is a 10 to 15 year development process, not only of teaching, but vetting. Teach here's the top 15%. Next, who's the top 50% of that pool? And eventually you end up with hundreds of candidates who could be physician leaders, but you have to start with 1,000 or more at the bottom to develop the pyramid. And that's what we talk about. This is the basic of the pyramid to me. This is the early entree to the pyramid. This program would be a perfect, adapt it, but it'd be a perfect onboarding program for doctors for a nationwide system. We just do this a little bit more and add the company specific elements of this so that they learn their language.
Well, when I think about it, you guys, the fee for this is less than $1,000, right?
Yeah,
and if I had a, well, right, exactly. But this is also a lesson in, because the higher the demand, the price will be accordingly adjusted, right? But if I'm sitting here thinking as a hospital administrator, and let's say I had 100 physicians on medical staff, which would be a small hospital, not small, but 200 or 300 beds, right? If you have 700, you're at 400 beds or so. If you have, 1,000 physicians on medical staff, and if I took 10 of my early up and comers that I see per year to put them through this program, that's only $10,000. And if I have 700 doctors on medical staff or whatever, 1,000 doctors, I've got between 800 million and $1 billion worth of revenue going in every year. $10,000 investment for 10 doctors every year to start building your pyramid seems like kind of a no-brainer, right? Because some of them may go through the program and they realize that I don't want to be a leader too, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
That's also,
and that's perfect, because it's better that they learn that now.
yes.
But I guarantee you they're going to get lessons in this program about life, how to balance your life, how to value your personal life, social media, how to present yourself in social media, we're going to teach them how to hire an attorney. What questions do you ask to retain an attorney who represents you, not the organization?
Yeah.
What about a financial advisor your first day out of med school? You probably should have one who can help you manage your debt and begin to speak the language. But the point is, we're going to teach them not who to hire, how to hire them. Here's the questions you ask. Here's what you're looking for. See, those are all basic skills every doc needs. But if my organization funded that for me, do you think I'm going to feel pretty good about who I just chose to work with?
Right.
Yeah, well, to what Curt was saying, it's right on target. We sometimes go out and are asked by our clients on the healthcare side to come out and help them figure out why they may have an uncomfortable turnover rate with their medical staff. And consistently, we hear the top reason was that administration just didn't listen. I came up with this idea and I told so-and-so about it and I never heard anything back. Then I did it again with another idea and they didn't even tell me if it was a horrible idea or not. I never got any feedback. So I guess they don't care. And then when someone new recruiter calls and says, hey, let me tell you about what we do here. We care about our physicians. We care about you being part of our solution. And here's how we do it. And let me demonstrate how people have a chance to do what they want to do with their chapters of their careers as they progress. And you can be part of that too, because we listen. Right? And immediately, okay, we're out of here. We're going to Texas or wherever we're going, because I have a chance to spread my wings as I mature in my life and my career to do things that are becoming important to me after I've done what I want to do clinically, or I want to maybe slow the clinical side down and get into this next phase of my life with an organization who cares.
Right.
So
great.
Yeah. All right. Can we? So thank you for doing this. I think if someone has a chance to watch the whole thing, they'll learn something just from watching this. One thing they will definitely know is they will see how much experience you guys have that you're bringing to the table, and the cluster of faculty that you're bringing with this program. But maybe more importantly, or equally importantly, is that they will see the why, and that why is based on how much they see that you actually care. So Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, can we just do
it? People wanted more information, Niels, and they wanted, if somebody wants to dive in more about not only the program and what's offered, but also who are the faculty, where are they now, what are they doing, what have they done, they can actually go to plc-network.com, and right on the homepage on the right-hand bar, if you slide down a little bit, you'll see the logo for the Path to Leadership. If they just click on that, it'll take them to the landing page and it'll give them all that information. There are links to the faculty that'll be involved. The registration form is there, and how to pay, and all of those kind of things. It's all based on you can find everything you need right on that landing page.
Great. Thank you both. And I know this is going to be a great success. I'm just thinking this is the, if I were a physician, my brain is taught about taking care of people, and my brain is full about all the things I need to know as a doctor. And the way you're approaching it is you're allowing me to titrate, small, short increments of absolutely relevant information that I can understand and absorb and execute against quickly without my mind exploding, right? And compromising my ability to not think like a physician anymore and take care of patients. And this is a great introduction. I also think, again, if I was a hospital administrator, I would get off after watching this, and I would go identify 5 or 10 or 1 physicians that need to go through this program and immediately put that $1,000 investment into this thing. You're going to get the best return on investment for that $1,000 that you would get from pretty much any other $1,000 investment that you're going to make this year on that doctor. I can guarantee it. So that's what I would do if I were a hospital administrator.